Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. So this girl I knew, Emily, was studying fashion design at college. She'd sometimes send me sketches of her handbag and purse designs, and let me tell you, they looked awesome. Not that I'm some fashion expert or anything. Emily was really into designing accessories, though. She told me this wild story about taking down the most entitled, self-absorbed slacker in their whole program. Here's what went down. Emily and Katie started out as friends since they had similar interests. Emily showed Katie all her detailed handbag sketches with the stitching patterns and measurements, and Katie was blown away. Their professor even praised Emily's work when she aced their first major design project. Poor Katie bombed that assignment, though, and she became Emily's little fashion shadow, constantly bugging her for help and advice. Emily tried tutoring her for a while, but Katie was just the worst. Spacing out, showing up late to study sessions, never saying thanks, mooching snacks and coffee, and whining nonstop about how hard it all was. After a week of that entitled nonsense, Emily ghosted Katie except for class time. Then at the midterm presentation, Emily was stunned to see Katie straight up stole one of her purse designs. Emily had enough different pieces that there was no conflict during her own presentation, but she was fuming. Emily met with the professor afterward, who admitted they knew what Katie pulled. Apparently, Katie's dad was a bigwig donor, so the prof was pressured into giving her good grades no matter what shady stuff she did. But the professor helped Emily plan some delicious revenge for the final presentation. The prof announced they'd be judged by actual industry professionals this time, with Katie's dad, the chairman, and the department head both in attendance too. Besides her regular class sketchbook, Emily also kept one with copied designs from major brands like Coach and Michael Kors. Just for inspiration, she never passed those off as her own work for assignments. So Emily pretended to be Katie's buddy again and accidentally had that brand sketchbook out during their study sessions while dealing with Katie's usual annoying behavior. All the while, Emily was low-key creating an amazing original design for the final in secret. On presentation day, Emily and the professor could barely contain their grins, knowing what was coming. Emily wowed the judges with her work first. Then, when it was finally Katie's turn, she didn't just steal one design this time. Her entire presentation pieces were straight copycats from 3 major fashion houses. After Katie's plagiarized designs were revealed, this conversation happened. Judge 1. So you're saying you designed all of these yourself, right? Katie. That's right. Judge 1. And you swear you didn't copy anything else, right? Katie. I swear. Judge 1. You are aware these are currently being sold by 3 brands, right? Katie. Huh? Judge 1. These are some of their most popular handbag lines out right now. If you worked for any of those companies and pulled this, you'd be fired or sued easily. Katie. But wait. Judge 2. Did you really think experienced professionals like us wouldn't recognize the stealing here? We've been in this industry for over a decade. Katie. These weren't my designs. Emily gave them to me. Judge 3. To Emily. Is this true? Emily. I did have photos of those brand designs, but just for inspiration. I'd never actually pass them off as my own work for a major project like this. Judge 3. Back to Katie. Well then, this is a clear-cut case of plagiarism. I hope your school deals with this matter strictly. After the presentation, Katie's chairman dad went nuclear on the professor in front of everyone, unknowingly admitting to the forced grade-fixing blackmail scheme. Katie accused Emily of setting her up, but nobody bought that for a second. The next one is an entitled people story. I've lived on my family's land for as long as I can remember. The sprawling acres and winding dirt road have always given me a sense of peace and belonging. When I was a kid, I used to explore every inch of those woods and fields. Now, as an adult, I maintain the property and live in the old farmhouse. The road leading up to my house is pretty long, nearly a mile from the main county route. I don't mind the drive, though. It gives me time to mentally transition from the hustle of town to the tranquility of home. A few months ago, a woman named Karen bought the plot of land adjacent to mine. I hadn't met her yet, but figured I'd swing by soon to introduce myself and welcome her to the area. Before I got the chance, I returned home one afternoon to find Karen planting posts along the sides of the road leading to my house. I pulled up beside her, rolling down my window with a puzzled look. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I asked. She glanced over with a snooty expression. "I'm marking the boundaries of my private road." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "This is my road. It leads only to my property." "Not anymore," Karen declared. "This is part of my land now. I'll be installing a gate at the end to keep trespassers like you out." My blood boiled at her audacity to claim my family's road as her own. I took a deep breath, determined to remain composed. "I apologize for the confusion, but my family has owned this road for over 50 years. I have legal documents to prove it." Karen let out an exasperated sigh. I don't have time for this nonsense. The realtor told me I owned the whole road. She waved her hand dismissively. Now run along, I have work to do. I shook my head in disbelief as she turned back to staking her claim. It was clear Karen had no intention of listening to reason. I'd have to take legal action if I wanted to protect my rights. Over the next few weeks, Karen escalated her efforts to commandeer my road. She installed an imposing gate and would leave it locked for hours at a time, blocking my access. She even called the sheriff, claiming I was trespassing. Fortunately, I had wisely made copies of my deed, survey, and easement paperwork. After reviewing the documents, the confused deputy agreed Karen was in the wrong. The final straw came when I found Karen rummaging through my mailbox. She had the audacity to claim it was illegal for me to have a mailbox on her road. Enough was enough. The next morning, I contacted my lawyer and filed an injunction to halt Karen's interference. In court, Karen showed up dressed in an ostentatious pantsuit like she was the one suing me. Her lawyer tried arguing the road belonged to her based on what the realtor said. Meanwhile, my lawyer calmly presented our deeds, easements, surveys, and even photos of me playing on the road as a child. The judge didn't even need time to review the evidence before ruling in my favor. He ordered Karen to remove the gate, posts, and any other obstructions on my road. What's more, she had to pay all my legal fees. Karen sat there, mouth agape, as the judge told her she was fortunate I wasn't pursuing further damages. As we left the courtroom, she shot me a nasty glare. I simply smiled and waved goodbye to the defeated Karen. The sweet taste of justice felt even better than I imagined, and I'll always cherish the memory of watching karma pay Karen a visit she so rightfully deserved. She messed with the wrong country road. The next one is a petty revenge story. Been going on for a few weeks now. Long story short, I replaced my rose bushes in front of my house. My house, not her house, but my house, you know, the one I own. Anyway, Karen comes over and knocks on my door and tells me she doesn't like that I removed the rose bushes, and I told Karen I don't care. She asked me to clarify what I said, and I said I don't give a duck what you think. Shocked, she goes, "You can't speak to me like that." To which I said, "Well, I just did." She goes, "Who do you work for?" Quick thinking, I go, "Oh, I work for local HVAC company as a sales manager." She goes, "Oh, that's nice." 2 days later, Karen comes over and tells me that I've never worked for local HVAC company, and I'm lying. I smile and go, "Ops forgot I just changed jobs. I work at local digital ad agency." Karen goes off on her merry little way. 3 days later, she comes back and advises me it's a crime to lie to her about where I work at. I laugh. She tells me I'm being super unprofessional. I laugh. Boys, I work for a 100% WFH company that no one has ever heard of, and I haven't updated my LinkedIn since I started my job. Not even sure if it would be possible for a regular person to figure out who I work for. I go, "Fine, look, you can go complain to my boss if you want, but I'm the GM at the local Ford dealer." It's been 4 days. No, I don't work at the local Ford dealer. Karen hasn't come back. Sure hope the GM at the local Ford dealer doesn't share a similar name to mine. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Some background, my husband is pretty handy. Prior to COVID, he had done several flip houses as a fun side gig. It's what he loves to do. And he became very familiar with a ton of city codes. During COVID, seems everyone was suddenly buying houses to flip out of boredom and prices skyrocketed, so he put that on hold. So then he started doing household repairs and upgrades, building fences, etc. around the neighborhood as well. To get a better understanding of the neighborhood homeowner association bylaws and whatnot, he joined the Homeowner Association Architectural Committee. Through that, he learned all there was to know about what was allowed and what was not, how the process worked, how to work around things, etc. Long story short, my husband was very knowledgeable in what to do and not do, and various processes with the neighborhood and the city. Our next door neighbor decided they were going to start landscaping their backyard, and they, I guess, planned to make theirs as similar to our backyard as possible. Problem was, despite being next door neighbors, our land was quite different. For one thing, behind our house was a bunch of brush and pine trees, maybe 4 from the lake that's at the back of the house. We didn't have to do a whole lot to clear the area, but the brush on their property was about 1/3 of their yard, I'd say 10 from the water. Also, the way the houses on our street are, the land naturally made like a valley where the house to our right is at the top. We're in the middle, and the next 2 houses are at the bottom before it very quickly rises again. First thing the neighbors did was cut down all the trees in their backyard. They were not small trees either, but 4-story tall trees or more. Husband and neighbor were talking about the backyard plans when my husband casually mentioned he was surprised the city gave him permission to cut down so many trees. In our city, you had to have an arborist give permission to cut down any trees that were X foot tall. Neighbor first said it wasn't the city's business what he did with his backyard, then told my husband to mind his own business. Okay, fair enough. Then they started putting up the retaining wall to bring it up to level with our property, which would have been about 7, 8 tall. Basically, they were just stacking a bunch of cinder blocks. My husband uneasily asked if their landscapers had ever done a retaining wall like that and if the city approved it. City says that if a retaining wall is over 5 tall, you need a structural engineer to come out. Neighbor said again it wasn't any of the city's business what he did to his yard, and for my husband to mind his own business. While they're filling up the backyard to bring theirs level to ours, the landscapers are dumping all the dirt, gravel, and sand in the street, blocking a little over half the road. Several of the neighbors who had trucks would just hop the curb, but other neighbors with smaller cars were mad. Before my husband could ask if they could put the dirt and stuff in their driveway instead of the road like everyone else, neighbor went off on my husband to duck right off. Well, okay then. My husband let them continue working and didn't say a word as they started constructing a 10-tall fence, which was against homeowner association regulations. Fences couldn't be taller than 6. Between them starting construction 6 days a week before 7 a.m. and them blocking the road, I guess someone had had enough. Next thing I know, city officials are out there putting a big-ass sign in the yard saying all construction was to be halted until further notice. It wasn't us, but my husband found out through the architectural committee that someone had complained about the noise and the road blockage to the homeowner association, who came out to investigate, saw everything they had done, and then reported them to the city. They got a hefty fine for every tree stump the city official found. The structural engineer said their retaining wall was not sound and had to be redone, and it had to have regular inspections during its build. The homeowner association also told them that not only did they have to take down their 10-tall fence, but as they did not get prior approval and because it was not an approved design, the homeowner association also hit them with a hefty fine. Initially, neighbor came after us for tattling, but we told them it wasn't us, as nothing they did affected us in any way. Our kids are early risers, so even starting before 7 didn't bother us. My husband then said he tried to warn them this would happen, but neighbor told him to duck off and mind his own business, and he did. Landscaping had started on Black Friday, was shut down for 3 weeks while I guess they got things sorted out with the city and homeowner association. Their backyard is still not finished. The next one is an entitled people story. Well, this story happened during my time working at Home Depot about 2 or 3 years ago, and not the first time I've had people make racist remarks towards me. I've been at work for a while and don't remember if I had just started my shift or was ending. I just remember standing at my register and then my coworker, I'll call Brooklyn, gently tapped me on the shoulder asking, "Hey, my customers don't speak much English. Can you see if you can help me out?" Luckily, the elderly couple were speaking Hmong while waiting for us to come over, and I agreed to take over the transaction for Brooklyn, and she'd watch over my register until I finished, because I've grown comfortable acting as a translator for elderly Hmong customers or anyone who rather speak our native language instead of English. So not long after I finish their transaction and start heading back to my register, I hear a very entitled throat clearing followed by, excuse me, along with finger snapping from behind me. Brooklyn and I see Karen standing at her register with a smug, "Well, I'm waiting for my stuff to be rung up." Brooklyn quickly goes over and Karen says, "Yeah, why isn't she coming back to ring me up?" Brooklyn, "She was helping the previous customers cause they have a language barrier. This is exactly my register." Karen, "That's not an excuse to ignore me like that. I'm a customer too. Does she have something against American people?" Me for my register, "No, I was only asked to finish her transaction for the customer. I came back because that's all I was asked to do." Also, Karen didn't walk up until after I walked away, or else I would have turned around to ring her up. By the time we noticed Karen, Brooklyn was a few steps away, and hence why she quickly went over to ring Karen up. Karen, not happy with my answer, started grumbling something under her breath, so I didn't exactly hear what she was saying until she said loudly, "Your kind is the reason we bombed Japan." Me and Brooklyn stopped what we were doing and stared at Karen, baffled by what she just said. Karen smirks and asks me, "What, it's true, Japanese people attacked us first." I'm starting to get mad, but not because of that fact, but due to Karen assuming I'm Japanese because I was a sane and implying that I was a racist. Me. I wasn't even born when that happened. Don't blame what happened in the past on me. I'm just doing what my coworker asked of me and I didn't ignore you. You walked up when I already walked away. Karen. "Oh, scary Japanese girl is telling me what to do and claiming her kind isn't at fault for Pearl Harbor." I saw red and said firmly, "I'm Hmong, not Japanese. Learn your insane races." Karen, shocked that I stood up to her, "Hmong isn't a race. You clearly made that up." Suddenly, Sally, our supervisor, head cashier, whom overheard what was said as she was walking over, "Hey, break it up." Karen, you need to teach that racist Japanese employee of yours to be respectful, or I'll report both of you to corporate. Brooklyn. She wasn't even being disrespectful. She was just correcting you about Karen. Oh, now you're ganging up on me. You're an American too. Why are you siding with that Japanese Sally? Leave! I'm not going to stand you harassing my cashiers. Karen. But why are you... Sally, Dragon_Crystal was asked by her fellow coworker to assist them, and that's what she did. Then you come over demanding she ring up your stuff rudely and then make racist insults towards Assanes. I'm not going to let that happen. Leave now. Karen leaves her cart and storms towards the door, saying, I'll be reporting this to HR. You'll be jobless by tomorrow, you Japanese immigrant. I yell back to her, I'm an American-born Hmong citizen and raised here, stupid, which made Karen give me a surprised Pikachu face as she disappeared outside. I honestly thought I was going to get a write-up for calling a customer stupid since I'm normally a calm, collected person. Only to be followed with Sally doubled over laughing because she wasn't expecting me to slip in that last part. I was allowed to go on break to cool off after dealing with Karen. That was lucky the only time I saw Karen. I'm sure she was banned. The next one is an entitled parent's story. I am an only child who is a female. I always viewed my father to be a protective man. I thought it was in his nature to make sure nothing hurt me. He never let a boy come near me, always got mad at me for having guy friends from the age of 5. He never let me go over to sleepovers, even at my cousin's, due to another male like a brother or a father being in that home. Honestly, all of this is fine. It makes sense for him to be protective in these scenarios. But now I'm starting to feel disrespected by him. I'm 23, just finished my undergrad, and am planning to find jobs, travel, maybe do my master's in the near future. I've never wanted kids, and marriage has been a back burner on my mind. I don't care about relationships, but even when I started university, my father had always teased me about how marriage is coming after I graduate and should start dating, despite his effort to make me become socially awkward around guys due to his protectiveness. I didn't like it when he would say my marriage timeline is coming up, but I kinda just thought it was because that's what most PPL do in their late 20s is get married, so I ignored my anger towards him at that time. But after graduation, I've realized that none of my successes are seemed important to my father because as a woman, I'm born to serve a man and birth his children. In the list of priorities of things I should be knowledgeable in my 20s is that I should learn to cook. Not for me, despite having to cook for myself when I lived away from home for uni. It's for a man. He's not even concerned about my financial well-being or teaching me about types of savings account. He's worried that I haven't found a job yet because it lowers the pool of men wanting to marry me. He's concerned that I'm considering doing my master's in my late 20s because I should be married by then and having kids. Recently, I picked up a hobby in sewing and he asked about my sudden interest in sewing and if I'm doing it for a husband. Why the duck would I be learning to sew for a husband? Duck him. The next one is an entitled parent story. I just can't with the way my mother thinks anymore. If I don't like a show, not necessarily hate, but just not all that into, that she absolutely loves, she just twists it into, I just don't understand why you hate insert show here. I've tried to explain to her that I'm just not into it, or it's not my kind of show, etc., but she just keeps bringing it up. That said, today was the worst. A few weeks ago, she begged me to watch an episode of Bridgerton with her, so I caved and spent an hour with this show, which is literally my idea of boredom. I could care less about the love lives of wealthy people, regardless of the setting. As soon as it was over, I said to her, I don't care about these people. I figured that would be the end of it, but today she said that I took issue with the black people in the cast. Now we're both 100% white, but I have no idea how she came to that conclusion. I said nothing about the casting choices of the show. Personally, I think casting POC for these characters who are white in the source material is like casting POC actors in modern Shakespeare productions. Even if the show had an all-white cast, it still wouldn't have made my viewing experience any better because it wouldn't have made a bunch of rich people any more interesting to me. When I pushed back, she literally stuck her fingers in her ears like a child. I'm still in complete disbelief at her unwillingness to listen to me. The thing is, I listen to her. I listen to her all the time. I listen to her annoying raves about the shows she loves, even though I could care less. I listen to her unload on me about how horrible her boss is. I don't twist any of it. I take it at face value, and I have no idea why she can't do the same for me. I'm an adult, and I've been trying to find a job in my field. I feel like I'm even more motivated to do so, because as soon as I move out, I'm just going to stop talking to her. She can think whatever the duck she wants about that, but at least she has no one she can say anything about too that will damage me. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.